All right. Hello, hello. Let's make sure I got the audio correct. Camlink 4K. Yeah, that looks good. All right, let's bring up the chat. Let me know y'all can see me and hear me okay. We should be good. Let's close down some stuff here. Is it doing that stupid Zoom thing again? I hate when it does that. All right, let's close things down. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing the Blueprint documentation page. Let's go to Blueprint project in the terminal, git checkout master, git pull. Let's get all this stuff down. It's been a while. Hope everybody's doing well. If you haven't joined me in a bit, you should be seeing the new camera setup right here. Pretty sweet. From Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. Nice. Cool. All right. Hey, Jeff. How's it going? Okay. Let's get out there. GitHub.com. Actually, you know what? Oh, yeah. I was going to say, it's not my repo, but I have access to it, of course. Whew, it's been a while. Out of practice. Okay, first things first. I've mentioned a few times in these live streams before that anytime the issues get above 10, I really like to get in there and get them back down. Some of those issues are like my own things and own ideas for the futures, and some of them are like features that I guess, to be honest, don't really believe in, but if someone in the community wanted to add them, then I would be totally cool with that. So the recent 4 or 5 that put me above that 10 mark, we're going to try to whittle down today. So I'm going to do about an hour now. It's really going to depend on how much time Izzy allows me to do. She takes 2 naps during the day. One is now and one is in the afternoon. But she hasn't been liking them lately. She's supposed to go about an hour and a half, and she maybe goes 45 minutes. She's just so curious of the world. She doesn't want to sleep. So anyway, I'm going to do 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon when she takes her next nap. So hopefully you can join for both, but we're going to try to finish things and tidy it up where we're not like some cliffhanger cut off or anything like that. So I'll probably pick 1 or 2 issues this morning and hopefully 1 or 2 in the afternoon. First things first, though, let's go ahead and get these merged in here, just so we're working kind of with the latest code, and I don't necessarily like kill some of these. So let me just review this just for a second. Actually, it looks like this is in a draft state, so it's not even in a mergeable place anyway. So to that point, let's say, Nathan, how is this looking? Ready for review? Question mark. All right. So that one is a no-go. Let's look at this. This one I have kind of been following. So let's do this. Let's give it a quick review. I don't think it's that many files. So what this did at a high level was basically allow you to have a shorthand for invocable controllers. And like I said, I've reviewed this before, but just to kind of quickly go through it, looks like they allow this kind of shorthand invoke syntax. You can basically just say like controller post invocable done. And now it just generates an invocable controller that'll, return a view or a simple response, right? And I think the original bit of this was that it properly kind of output a invocable controller route. I think that was kind of the initial bug fix, but it kind of turned into more after a lot of discussion. So, which is fine. It's good. I think this is a good addition. So again, we've got this use tuples, class name now, make sure it gets properly output. And then this build route line, again, now has proper handling if it's invoke to make sure that it just uses the class name instead of doing any kind of like at method syntax, right? Or tuple syntax. So pretty straightforward. I think what I want to see now is tests. I want to see some good tests for this. Dan, Barcelona, Spain. Y'all are making me miss travel. I've been like stuck at home for 13 months now. The last place I went was London for a PHP conference, and I had plans to go to Berlin for another PHP conference. I was going to go to Laracon EU in August just to, again, get abroad. But yeah, all the COVID stuff shut that down real quick. So that's okay. In the future, hopefully. But of course, with Izzy, now, I'm not going to be traveling to all those places with, a 5-month-old. So haven't been to Spain. Wanted to go. Haven't been. Need to go. Anyway, invoke controller, render report. So this looks like it's just making sure the token is all good here. Whoops. Looks like my Bluetooth headphone just kicked off because there's no noise. Okay, anyway, yeah, so this, when you call invoke, right, you would just have a controller for report, the invoke, and then again a render report response. So it just kicks back a view. So this is just demonstrating that the Lexer actually turns back what you want. So that's all good. And here's what you would get. So that looks really nice. So I think we have some good tests and fixtures here. Yeah, here's an example of that report invocable. You can call it both ways and fire another event. That looks pretty cool. Here's another example of non-cruddy bits there. I wonder why that got thrown in there, but whatever. Whatever, redirect, report invoke. Yeah, this looks good. Report invocable. I guess this is just demonstrating that they all do the same thing. So yeah, report controller. I'd like to see one, hopefully there's one in here for tuples, and there is. Beautiful. Okay, this looks really good to me. This is a really good PR. Again, there was a lot of back and forth, but I think this looks great. So let's go ahead and squash merge this, because I don't want this to get conflicted with master as we keep making changes. So yeah, feature invocable controllers. That looks fine too. Let's do it. New feature. Cool. Okay, so we'll leave this one floating because it's in draft state, and these stubs, not necessarily a mission critical thing anyway. So let's kind of work maybe in backwards order here, and just to kind of get like going on something kind of fun. I thought this was one that I kind of just took a quick peek at this morning. So here's a really good example. Here's a draft file. They have this order or like ordinal, to sort, I suppose, these questions, and the default should be 1, but this is kicking out as default string 1, which I imagine underneath probably all works fine, but that should probably say default 1, like integer 1. And so I think this is all good stuff. So yeah, like I said, there was a little back and forth a few days ago. So let's start with this one because this is good. We should be able to make a nice failing test and get that going. So what is this issue number? I'm going to close the chat here in the background just for a sec. And that way I can see what's going on. This is 440. All right, so let's do git checkout -b fix 440, and let's bring up PHP Stormsville. And so let's review this a little bit more. So basically, we kind of want to throw on this order integer bit, and again, make sure that the migration is properly outputting what we want. So let's do blueprint. And let's kind of find a test we can piggyback. I'm sure there's one of these migration tests in here somewhere. Let me know if any of these font sizes, I think they might have gotten a little smaller. I recently tweaked my theme a bit, but I bumped down to like 1080p, so we should, or 720p actually, but we should be pretty good here. So what I'm interested in is finding one of these migration tests that I can probably just piggyback. This should be like a really basic thing that it should get that right, in my opinion. So let's bring up the migration migration test, because yeah, I think this is fine. This should be something in the migration test. What I was thinking in the back of my mind is, does YAML actually give me an integer there? And whether it does or not, it's kind of irrelevant, because what really is triggering it is the data type of the column. So for example, only the fact that that's an integer is what matters, and then so long as this is some kind of, digit, the combination of the two is what would prompt me to trigger that to be, a regular value. An integer value. So that's kind of what I was thinking in the back of my mind there real quick, was just, where do I want to put this? Should it go on the lexer? But I think the answer is no, because it's kind of too smart of the lexer at that point. The lexer just finds tokens and assigns them to things. It doesn't make any judgment calls on like what that data is. So, okay, the next thing I want to do, I think somebody told me last time it's like F12 or something, or Shift F12. No, something brought up. Did I just like totally move my sidebar? I guess I did. Somebody was telling me like structure, how to bring this tab up. I thought it was F12, but maybe it was something else. Anyway, writes migration model for tree definition. Let's just see return type declarations, migrations. Let's see what this one, oh, here's a huge provider. Okay, let's go look at this. I'm just trying to find model modifiers. This might be a good one. I just want to piggyback one. Let's see what this YAML looks like. Yeah, there's defaults in here. I think this is a good example of that modifier. So let's do this. Let's copy that. We'll change this to ordinal, which just kind of implies the sort value of things. And then we'll say integer and 1, the exact bit that mattered from the open pull request. And I'm here in the chat, so let me bring it up. String F12 on Linux. What's strg? Is that like shift or something? I don't know what strg shorthand means. Okay, in the meantime, let's run our test and we should see a failure. Whoa, that was way more failures than I thought. That's actually, I remember now, that's actually one of the reasons I don't like messing with the existing fixtures, is because you get like a lot of errors that don't matter. Okay, so first things first, let's fix the things that don't matter, right? So random number between 10, okay, so that's probably fine. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of like copy paste the things that are totally fine here. So like, as far as a random number, we didn't say unsigned integer or anything, so let's get into model modifiers. Whoops. Let's get into model modifiers, and that's a factory. And we're just gonna drop that here, and let's rerun this and see if we're a little less. We are. I'd like to get it down just to the migration related failures. Okay, so we've got one more. This is model modifiers for Laravel 8. Interesting. All right. Oh, because it's a new class-based syntax. That makes sense. Okay. So again, no change here. This isn't what we're after. So this isn't the bug we're looking for. So this can just go to be what we care about. And now if we run this again, we should be down to just the 2 failures inside of migration generator test. Great. So I'm going to lock in on this so we're not running all tests at a time. And we should see just those 2 failures. So we have output updates migration for model tree, and it's our data set model modifiers. That looks good. And then data set model modifiers time. This one's weird. I wonder why there's 2 failures. That's a bit interesting to me. Model modifiers.php. Let's bring this up and then I'll check the chat because I hear somebody blowing it up in there. Model modifiers migrations. Maybe we use that migration twice or something? Or that data value twice? I don't know. Let's find out. Okay. So we know these aren't going to match, but real quick, I'm trying to understand. I wouldn't expect to see this twice. So number 2. Oh, do we have some of these? Let's see where this is used. Yeah, it's used in 2 spots because I bet you this other one is like a Laravel 8 kind of thing. Updates migration for model tree. Yeah, here we go. I think we actually tell it to be like a different, what is the difference here? Output writes migration for model tree. Output updates migration for model tree. Oh, okay, sorry. This is, I think, where you pass it. I think when you call this, we actually pass it something. Yeah, overwrite true, that's the difference. So if we scroll back up to the other test case, output, there's no overwrite here on the other side, which is default's false. So I think that's just, it's just the same test actually, but it's just saying, hey, you're gonna overwrite those values. So, okay, so that's why we have 2 failures of a similar looking test case. Okay, I think we have a good failure now. We're seeing that it's coming out as string 1, which is exactly what the issue describes. And let's make this pass now. All right, let's see. What we got in the chat here? Control, cool. STRG is control in German. Crazy. All right, you can double shift structure, cool. Hey, Jess is here. What's up, Jess? On Mac, Command 1 and Command 7, there we go. All right, I think that was the one I was looking for. I'll check that out next time. Okay, so I think we have the good failing test here. Let's get into model, our migration generator, and kind of start poking around, because it's, I bet you this is pretty nasty. Yes, it is. All right, I'm gonna close the chat one more time so I get maximum screen space. All right, let's just kind of poke our way through here. Okay, so we get a tree and we loop over each of the models in the tree and we populate the stub. So we're definitely going to be doing that. And the definition is what we care about. So let's build definition. So let's start looking at this. Okay, so we loop over the columns. If you're an ID, you get some special handling here of big increments or unsigned big integer. All right, if you're unsigned, all that's fine. Where I start to care about things is where we look at default. So here's modifiers, there we go, good. All right, so foreign key modifiers, probably don't care about that. Let's keep going, none of this foreign key stuff matters. Here we actually start looping over the modifiers. This is probably where things start to matter. And look at this, we actually have some stuff here where it says if you're a Boolean or a tiny integer and you have a modifier key of default, then don't quote you. So look, we already have this code. We just kind of missed an edge case. Okay, this is going to be way easier than I thought. Okay, so what we need here is really something that starts to say, are you all the different types of integer data types? Now, before we get nuts here, this is line 216. So let's go back up top. I wonder, we have nullable types. I just wonder if we have like an integer types, right? Unsigned types. Boom, 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 boom. Big integer, decimal, integer, medium integer, small integer, tiny integer. Okay. So we do have unsignable types already. It's not enough. I don't feel like that's all of them. Let's go look at Laravel migration column types. And available column types. Oh wow, this is, What I'm curious about is yes, and this is what I wanted to know. Are there unsigned versions of those? And of course there are, because we have them already in our list of unsigned whatever. But does this cover all of the things that we care about? It doesn't cover Boolean. What else does it not cover? That would be potentially an integer, right? There's other things too, like decimal, double, float. Those, if I remember right, those probably shouldn't be quoted either, right? So it's kind of like we need a special method to really capture them all. Yeah, float would be missing. There's a lot of things that we probably may as well go ahead and fix, right? And then technically we would need to expand that test case to do that. So we may need to end up turning this into its own test case. Long way around. Okay, so let's go back to 2.16. And for now, we can just make this pass by simply putting integer there. And I bet you this is going to pass. Boom. Done, right? Ship it. No. Okay, we need to cover those other bases and drive this out once and for all, because it looks like it got started but only touched those two spots. So let's write a failure. Let's write a new fixture for like all of those crazy integers, right? And so if you, I'll take some audience assistance here, but if you see anything that I miss, please tell me in the chat any of the data types. So first things first, let's extract this into a method, and we'll call it is numeric type. I don't know. I'm not super high on that name, but we'll go with it for now. All right, and then this should all be fine. It returns a bool, and it's just an array, and I don't care about that because we're already type inting everything else, right? Okay, so quickly, what I did there was refactor. What I want to see here is green to green. I don't want to start adding any additional test cases yet, any failures, any new code. This is just a green to green refactor. Some people call it the blue phase of the TDD process, right? So I'm expecting green again. Great, successful refactor. Okay, so now I have the hooks that I need to update this in a more robust way, but I don't have the failing tests, so we're going to start that cycle back over again. All right, so we're going to go back to our fixtures, and I'm actually going to copy this and make a new model with, we'll call this numeric defaults, right? And what I want to do is obviously drive this out to kind of look the way I want. So we're going to have to make that. Where else do we have model modifiers? We have this in a lot of spot. So let's go into the fixture. First of all, let's start there. And this is model numeric defaults. And let's start cleaning this up with just all the ones we can think of, right? So we have ordinal, that's pretty obvious. What else do we have? We're gonna have a lot of these. This is gonna kind of tell us which ones we need. Okay, so we know we need big integer. So we have big integer, right? Big integer, cool, let's just go down the list. Boolean is definitely one of them. So Boolean, and then decimal. Double, can you write, here's the tricky thing, can you write double in a weird notation? That's all I'm curious about. So like double and float, I wonder if like MySQL default float value, I'm just wondering if you can write like scientific notation. Like I don't know, right? That's the other thing too, like what if you reference some other column? We kind of need to be a little bit smarter here. Like not only can it be one of those, but then it could also be like, it has to be a numeric value, right? That's kind of interesting. Because it could be nullable, and the defaults, you're explicitly saying default null. So there's a lot of boundary cases we actually need to check for now that we're getting into this. Let's see what the chat thinks. I'm not inclined to do float or nullable. Small, medium, unsigned. Yeah, float would be missing. I don't know how I feel about float. I don't know how I feel about float. Okay, when in doubt, leave it out, right? So I'm not going to do it. All right, let's go back to these. I'm going to skip decimal, double. I'm going to skip double and float for now. We're going to pull in integer, of course. So we already have that, skipping on. And then we would need medium, integer. What else do we have? Medium integer and small integer, so let's get that. Medium, integer, and small integer. All right. What else do we have? Tiny integer. And then technically you would have all of the unsigned versions of these, right? Okay, cool. And let's do like numeric here just to change it up a bit. All right, so we need some better names here. So let's do something fun. Foo, bar, baz. I think it's like key. What are these? Foo, bar, baz, list. Yeah, let's see how far we can go. Terrible post. Just give me the list. Give me the list. Where is the list? Here we go. That's better. Thank God. All right. Oh wow, we're gonna get nuts here. Quicks. Corge. Wow, I never would have known. Gralt. Garpley? Ooh, Waldo. We gotta get Waldo in there somehow. All right. And then another da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so now I want to do some of the, I'd like to do some of like the false positive ones for now. So what I want to do is maybe drive this out by saying like default null and then like nullable. And then I would want to do something like unsigned integer all in one, right? And then same thing, allow it to be 1. And then let's change decimal to like 1.0 and maybe change that to 0 just to get some variance. And 100. And what else could we do that's a little bit weird? Let's make Waldo a little bit weird. So let's do something like, let's do something like unsigned decimal and then default is something strange like I, kind of like they showed in the docs. So what I'm driving out with these last few is that this one, let's change these names because this is technically, I would want this to be, whoops, higher up. I want to have like all the good ones first. So let's move that up. There we go. Let's get rid of that. And then this one becomes Garpley. Okay, so all these should be good. And then these should be bad. Cool. Yeah, Boolean's gonna be a little bit of a special case. Yeah, I've done that Boolean true before, and I feel like it bit me once. I feel like Laravel didn't handle it correctly underneath the covers or something. I'll have to double check that. Or maybe it was default 1 didn't work right. or false maybe, or something. I forgot. One of the values didn't work the way I thought it would. I never got back to making a PR. Maybe it's been fixed, who knows. Okay, so I think we have more than sufficient of a test here. So basically all these should be good, and this should pass. So what started out simple is actually a little more complicated than we thought. So let's bring up migration test, and let's go down to our data provider, and let's drop in our new little model, numeric defaults, right? Let me get rid of this sidebar. Okay, so create numerics table, I guess, and then model numeric defaults. All right, good stuff. Let's run this, and we should definitely get some failures for a couple different reasons. First of all, I would expect one of these to fail because the file doesn't exist, but it's actually pretty good. It's actually pretty good. So let's just take what it does generate in the interest of time and go back to that migration numeric defaults, and let's drop this in here. And these should of course pass the way they currently are, which is a good sign. But what we need to do is clean this up a bit. So null is actually handled well. Good job. So what we need to do is this should be 100. Let's make this the way we want it to be. This should be 1.0. This should be 1. This should be 1. I probably should have made these some better numbers, just to kind of make it a little more clear. Default value 0. Yeah, I feel like maybe we'll make a separate issue for like maybe converting that to true or false. It just reads better. That would be a nice little touch, I think, but I'll probably open a separate issue for that. I don't want to make this any more complex than it already is. I think default value I there is quite strange. I'm gonna leave that alone because I just don't really know the proper way to handle that yet. So I think handling it the previous way is fine. What I'm trying to do with that is drive out that if you do have a default and the value is, you know, not null or something, because it looks like null is already handled, but if it's not numeric, right, we're gonna do a little type check on it, then you know, we wouldn't want to unquote it. So that's kind of why this one's floating in there right now. This may be handled differently in the future, but for now, I think this is a good test case. So we got the 2 failures again. Let's go make these pass. So let's go back to this, of course, and we've got our data type, and I'm gonna just change this to type. Feels just a little smoother, and then we're just gonna list out all those types that we had. So we have big, integer, all right, and then we have all the other ones. I'm not going to try to remember all these, so let's just go back to our definition and just kind of reference this side by side here. Let's get rid of that because it looks good. That should be good. Okay, so we have Boolean, decimal, integer, of course, medium integer, small integer, tiny integers coming up. Oh, look, those are all kind of lowercase. Get out of my way, thing. Small integer, tiny integer, and then all the unsigned stuff. Okay, so that's it. Tiny why does that look wrong? Tiny integer, I guess it's right. Okay, let's make all these lowercase, and let's do an str to lower on that. Okay, now this should cover a pretty good amount of them, but it won't get all of them. And what it won't get, or starting to demonstrate, it's not going to get the unsigned types. So let's handle the unsigned types. So what could we do here? We could say We could say if you're prefixed with unsigned, we could just clip it off. It's a little dirty, but like it works. It's better than saying like, are you in this array or are you in this array of the potential unsigned types? I think that's a little goofy personally. Or well, we have unsigned types. We could make it clean. Let's make it clean. So we could say if you're in that array, or this is nasty. I'm not gonna like this, but let's just do it one more time. Or str starts with the haystack would be type, and you'd have to start with unsigned, and you'd have to be in the array of, or the str after unsigned would have to be in self unsigned types array. What is it not like about this? Required parameter haystack missing. Oh, whoops. Str after unsigned subject would be type. I told you I wouldn't like this. That is a nasty line. Go, I really broke something there. Okay. So that is an array. We have one too many, I think. Yes, we do. We're still broken. What did we break? Unsigned integer and unsigned. Well, unsigned decimal shouldn't do it. Unsigned integer is not getting picked up. What's wrong with you? Merge the constant. Yeah, we could do that. That's true. That would be slightly smoother. So if you start with unsigned, okay, and then you have to be in the array afterward. Oh yeah, are these? Those are not lowercase. Yes, I don't think that's the problem. I don't think that's the problem in this particular case, just because I've set it capitalized there. Oh, I see what you're saying. We're taking the part after, so it's capital I, so it's not in the list. Grr. Yeah, this is gross. Okay, so let's back it up. This one-liner's never gonna work out anyway. Okay, let's do this. Let's say, let's just break this apart. It's a little gross, but so if you're in that array, then return true. Otherwise, we want to do some fancy stuff here. So we could start short-circuiting this. We could just start saying, like, if you don't start with unsigned, then don't even bother messing around with the rest of this stuff we're gonna do. All right, and then we could say, we know that you're unsigned, so we could just go ahead and take the first part of this, and then, so we could just say type is the end of it. Yeah, I hear you in the chat with a string of, but I think string of is Laravel, if I'm correct. It's definitely Laravel 7 or higher. So somebody committed that once before and it broke everybody for Laravel 6. Blueprint still goes back to LTS Laravel 6, so can't use string of. So sorry, we got to do it the old-fashioned way. Okay, so what we could do, though, is at least maybe make this a little cleaner with like a collection or something. So we could collect these, right? And then do something like contains function, you know, I don't want to call this type, but just value is fine, and say like return str to lower of value is, you know, equal to type or something like that. So, and I think we could even say something like first, so it just stops. Is there a has? There is. Oh, has is key check. I think contains probably short circuits is honestly what I would think there. But yeah, otherwise we could map it with str2 lower and then run a contains and just pass in the type. But let's see what this does. It's a bit ugly, but let's see what it does. All right, it doesn't like us for some reason. So again, when in doubt, log it out. So dump here. Whoa, we're definitely getting there. Why doesn't it like that unsigned integer? Let's get there with type. Let's see what it's getting there with. String, very strange. Unsigned big integer, there we go, that's good. All right, so let's move this down so it's a little less noisy, because it's getting here for other things which don't make sense. And again, once we get this passing, I'm glad to refactor it and make it like a smaller thing. We could probably just do it in one collection loop, to be honest, and just like you said, throw on Boolean in there. The only reason I'm keeping them separate is to keep them like really strict, right? Because there's no such thing as like unsigned Boolean, so you might be thinking, oh, well, why don't you just merge the two arrays and, okay, if it's unsigned, chip it off, but it's not, that's not exactly what we're after. Good spot, Adrian, thank you. I think there it is. We also need to str2 lower this guy. Because yes, when we're chopping that unsigned, it's coming back as big, capital B, I, integer. We still got a failure though. Oh, okay, good. No, that's good. We're actually farther along. Okay, so now it's saying default I, and this is the last final check that we want to do here. Okay, so this is good. Let's finish getting this passing, and then we'll come back and revisit this one more time. But I agree, it's a bit cumbersome, but it's not too bad. Okay, so the very first thing we could do to short circuit all this is ultimately just say like is numeric here, right? Like if you're not even some kind of numeric value, even scientific notation, whatever, we just don't even want to bother with that. So let's check that the modifier value is better. Ooh. See, Boolean's a special case. Boolean's a special case. So now this leads us down the road of being able to clean it up a lot better. But on 459, it's only lowered once. 459. What's wrong on 459? I don't understand. If the values of either side str2 lower, they're totally normalized here. There shouldn't be any problem. I'm not following you. Anyway, I think what we need to do is this becomes kind of an or, to be honest, because if you're a Boolean value, we're not going to, or we have to handle that very separately, that it's like true or false, right? Again, I don't know how common it is that people are like referencing another column inside of, I don't think that's a reality, to be honest. So here's what I want to do. I basically want to say data type equals Boolean or it's numeric. And let's just make that function do all the same thing. So for starters, what we need to do is say, we really need to say like, this feels a little weird. No, I guess that makes sense. So you got to be that, or, so you have to be default, and you would have to be one of these two things. You would have to be a data type of Boolean. I'm so glad I have like all these tests, because this would be I would have missed a million cases otherwise. This is numeric. And I don't even know if I want to do like type here anymore. I'm tempted to just say like, is numeric default, and then pass it in the data type and the modifier value. And now we could get like real serious with this, I think. So if it's Boolean, we're just going to trust you know like what the heck's going on. Let's go back down here, and right away we're going to say, yeah, if you're not numeric, and this is you know what? I don't know if that's always, we're going to find out. I think it's always a string, but again, YAML might already be typecasting that. So we'll just say like, if is numeric value, and again, we'll see if PHP gripes about those types, then return false. If not is numeric, sorry. Okay, so we just bail early. So if you're not numeric, totally bail early. Is numeric default. All right, and again, we might toy with that name, but let's just get this passing at this point. Okay, so if it's not numeric, then play on. We don't need to mess with Boolean anymore, which means now that we can probably do this all in one because it's kind of irrelevant, right? Yeah, we're going to be able to tighten this up, but let's see if we're passing now. Not passing, but we're back to our original errors. So what are we erring about now? Because this actually looks correct to me. That looks right. 100, 0, not quoted, not quoted, not quoted. Oh, null is quoted now. Null is quoted now. Ah, so many boundary cases. So gross. I could do like a special checkup here for null. That's really gross. Yeah, null is a string. I know why it's failing. I'm just trying to think of like where. So it's kind of like yet another checkup here that's like, hey, if data or if modifier value equals null, or it's Boolean, or it's a numeric default. I mean, it passes. I never would have thought that this issue would have taken this much code, to be honest. That's kind of the crazy thing about like Blueprint and Shift, for that matter, is like the amount of code that goes behind generating or updating or like analyzing code is pretty significant. So like, you know, this is, I mean, it's cool. It's cool stuff. But yeah, okay, we're passing. So now that we're passing, let's do one final refactor, and we're gonna call it quits here. So is numeric default? Okay, so if it's not numeric, we don't even want to play with it. Otherwise, if it's in the array, which now at this point, this array should match the array up top. Let's just double check that. So we have big integer, decimal, integer, medium, small, and tiny. So let's just make sure that's the same. Big integer, decimal, integer, medium, small, and tiny. Yes, we do, other than the casing. So, okay, let's leave that alone, and let's get rid of this, and we'll just start tidying this up. And we'll basically say, if you do start with unsigned, then let's just chop you off right? And then return that you're in the collection of unsignables being normalized. So this should still pass, and it does. Great. And let's make sure everything passes. Everything passes. Okay, I think this is fixed. I see Adrian griping in the chat yet again. What's wrong, man? I would switch the conditions in the generator and ask what should I cast to a string. Null, true, false, or numerics, not rest. Yeah, okay, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, that makes sense. Instead of kind of, you could take the opposite approach is what you're saying. I could say, if you're one of these known values, then allow it to just be, you know, yeah, instead of checking all the types and the columns and everything else. Because, I mean, supposedly you could have a varchar and, you know, basically still have 1 in your generated output, right? It theoretically could be less code because, yeah, you're checking a much smaller surface area of things. But part of me kind of likes, let me kind of bring up a model real quick to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Let's bring up, so while I definitely agree this would be, like this would be fine, I don't know why, but I would just like to see that, right? I would like to check. I think knowing the string just gives me that a little bit cleaner of an output, right? Like, is this totally acceptable and like correct from like a data type perspective, from a PHP output data type perspective? Absolutely. But from kind of a human perspective, like, I think most humans would quote that 100 personally. And that's why I'm going to leave the approach that we have. But are you right? Could you go the other way around and probably have a little bit less code? Absolutely, you could. I also expect that this is going to change because we kind of left double and float and that stuff open-ended. And in those cases, they might need some special handling as well. So the list of things that you open is kind of always growing is the point I'm making. So this is passing. I'm kind of at time. So let's get this PR up and merged. And then we'll pick up this afternoon. So let's kind of review what we did. I definitely don't want to change that. It looks like I changed some of the styling here, so I don't want to do any of that. Okay, so we did change some stuff here. So instead of this in array and the null and all that kind of stuff, we have our checks. So look, if you're null or if you're Boolean or if you're a numeric defaulted value, then yes. No, we don't want to change any code formatting. I must have done that on accident. And then here is a yes. And then yes, of course, we want to add our new ones. I'm not inclined to change this one anymore, so I'm actually going to say no there, and no, because we ended up making our own fixture, so I don't really want to mess with this original one, just in case anybody wants to use it somewhere else. And now that I remember we're using Laravel's code styling, there's one little spot. This should have a space there. I don't personally do that, but let's stick with the conventions that we had. So no, 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 yes, quit. All right, git, and we need to add -i for star quit. All right, so those should add the other files that we wanted. Great. Okay, git commit -m output numeric defaults properly output fix output of numeric defaults. How about that? Git push origin head. And let's just make sure -w. Okay, so I didn't want to add the new ordinal thing, and everything else is just white space changes. Git reset -hard, git open. Let's go make this PR and see that all the tests pass. Okay, so there's not too much to say here, but basically we could just say add or properly output a numeric default for all, I guess, numeric columns, or all numeric column data types. And this closes, what was it, 440? Yeah, it's in the PR, 440. There we go, cool. Create pull request. Okay, while that is running, I'm going to quickly take a peek at some of these other ones. So that's going to take care of 440. And let's just take a peek at this one just for the future. When I define a controller specifying the resource type as resource API, the index method has a query all and resource paginate posts as shown below. Okay. The above code generates the following files. Great. The problem comes in the index method, post collection, paginate. First it generates post variable and assigns it in the results of post all, then tries to call paginate on the post variable. This leads to an error. Oh, I guess this should probably be the thing that says paginate. I'm assuming. I guess you can't paginate after the fact? I thought you could. Yeah, paginate should be up top. I didn't know you could say that there, to be honest. Actually, if you call a resource, it should be the resource's responsibility to paginate that stuff, right? Laravel resources. Let's check this real quick while it's running, because we might be able to just close this. With some education, of course. Oh, okay. It's expecting paginate to come in, paginated. You may pass Laravel paginated inster to the collection. Okay. Cool. Yeah, there's no... Wow. That one's going to be very tough to fix. That one's going to be really tough to fix. When returning paginated collections via a resource response, Laravel will wrap your When you pass Laravel paginator instance to the collection method of a resource or to... Okay. Yeah, it seems like it kind of... I guess for whatever reason, at some point I thought this did some fancy pagination, but let's just make sure that hasn't changed. Paginate. Yeah, doesn't seem like there was any kind of difference before. If you're returning a collection of resources or paginated response, you may use the collection method when generating the resource instance. And I think that's what I was trying to do, is this paginated response. I should probably toy with collections a bit more, or sorry, resources, to understand, but like somewhere in my mind I thought collection automatically paginated it. I don't know why I thought that, but I did. Anyway, maybe we'll toy with that one this afternoon. Let's get this merged. Where is this? Open. Show me some green. We're green. All right, people, successful fix of a single issue. I thought we would get a little farther. I thought we would get 2. We actually didn't. Looks like we got a new issue while we were making this live stream. So even more to work on this afternoon. So thank you all for joining. We're looking like we're exactly at an hour. That's perfect. So again, I will live stream this afternoon again around 1:15 Eastern time. I think that's UTC -4, so I know some of you all will be asleep by then, but hopefully we'll pick up a newer audience that's more in the Western hemisphere, I suppose. So thanks again, appreciate all the feedback, and I will see you all later.